Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Watt, and you are listening to another episode of the Perilous Podcast, a special episode of the Perilous Podcast, and you're also listening to Cool Cats by Kevin MacLeod. Get all your royalty-free music at incompetech.com, and we'll be listening to a little more of that on the outro. And even though we are listening to Cool Cats, we're going to be talking about something that is not very cool, and joining me, as always, in the Bunker of Doom, I believe, really appropriately named this week, is the co-host. It's Angie Carrier. What's happening, Angie? Hey. What's up, YouTube? So we're recording this on Saturday the 19th.
Yes.
And usually we air the podcast on a Friday. Mm-hmm. And you and I discussed this. And so we're going to air this on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. And just because things are moving so fast, who knows what Wednesday will bring. So what we're going to talk about may not feel like it falls into conspiracy and stuff like that. That's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Conspiracy and stuff like that. Just turning down my phone, folks. But I don't know if you're, but it will. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily in the classic sense, but there is a conspiracy going on. So last weekend, and we're not going to fill everybody in, because if you don't know what happened last weekend, just Google. So last weekend we had this Unite the Right riot. And when I say we, I mean humans.
America.
Yeah, not Angie and I weren't like, let's go. I bet they have street corn. So in Charlottesville, the government of Charlottesville in Virginia voted to move, not remove, melt down, and turn into a commode, but move the statue of Robert E. Lee to a museum or something like that and just take it out of the public space. And every fucking neo-Nazi group went totally brown trouser, and used it though. They weren't really there for that. If you really look into it, that was the excuse. And about 8 or 9 various neo-Nazi groups showed up, and shit went south.
Yeah.
And President Cheeto Jesus came out, as we all know, and said some really stupid shit. Then came out and basically
double down on this. Really
but no, he came out and basically read a hostage video.
Oh, yeah.
I am fine. Racists are bad. They are treating me okay.
Bigotry is bad. I mean, including bigotry, but other groups are bad.
Yeah, but he read that prepared statement that you could tell he didn't want to read, and then that just, because he's a child, and a spoiled child, and a racist, and we know he's and I'll prove, and I know you know, but we can prove he's a racist in 30 seconds, and then that stuck in his brain. That was the 8-year-old Donald Trump going, I don't want to eat Brussels sprouts, and you can't make me eat Brussels sprouts, and I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to eat cake right in front of you. And so he came out and ate cake, and went back on the right thing to say, and basically blame both sides. And so the problem really is, now look, I did see video of the left losing their cool, and while that's unfortunate, there were 2 sides in World War II, and there was violence on both sides.
Yeah.
But the Nazis were still the bad guys.
Yeah, that's what I know. It's not really, when people are showing up to try to peacefully protest, the people who think that white people should be the only color.
Well, right, and I had a weird exchange with someone online who wanted me to explain. And look, I have a problem with Black Lives Matter, but I'll get into why I have a problem. It has nothing to do with the message. It has to do with the organization. And I do have a problem with Antifa, because Antifa is technically anti-fascist, but they're really borderline anarchists. And when you get a bunch of anarchists together, shit's going to go crazy.
Yeah.
And it's sort of how I feel about the war on terror. When President Bush brought back torture and just called it something else, my problem with the war on terror is the same with the war on racism. You cannot fight a war of morals from the moral low ground. And again, I'm not strong enough to do this. I'd have punched some fucking neo-Nazis. I would have. I'd have lost my shit. I really would. And you know, I'm not a religious person. I sort of walked away from organized religion a long time ago. But I become Jewish at odd times. And usually it's when there's about 800 people walking down the street saying, Jews will not replace us. And by the way, if you are, let's say you're an architecture and design major at Charlottesville and you love the lines of the Robert E. Lee statue and you actually went, although you didn't, to protest the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue. When you're walking down the street, the first guy that hails a cab and screams, the Jews will not replace us, or Hail Victory, which is just English for Sieg Heil.
Right.
Walk away.
Right.
Like if you're in that group and you're like, cool, you're a fucking Nazi.
Right, that's the thing, is that they're like, oh, not everybody was a white supremacist. But yeah, as soon as you show up and people are saying that shit, you say, I'm out then.
Well, and they're very clever, the white supremacists, more clever than you'd think. And you know, a lot of them, sure, there were the morons with the shields and the very obvious stuff and the fabulous KKK gowns, which always seem very Asian to me.
Yeah.
Like design-wise.
Yeah.
Which,
kimonos.
Yeah, it's like.
Don't you hate them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's the very clever ones, which are, you know, you saw these people in these polo shirts with like a little triangle. That's a hate symbol. They're just, you know, like I have a polo shirt with a little Green Lantern symbol. And a lot of people will go, oh, what is that? It's Green Lantern. But if you're in the know, you look at them and you go, oh, cool, Green Lantern polo.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Green Lantern, not a racist. Just showing my nerd cred. So if you've got that.
Kind of a bad movie also.
I'm not talking about the movie.
I know.
How dare you? This podcast is over. But, you know, the movie was terrible. The comic book is very important to me. Okay. I digress.
I know, I was just
kidding. But the point being, I got a little too far away from the microphone. But so here's, you know, look, there's some obvious things we can say. You and I abhor racism. We abhor sexism. We abhor making excuses for neo-Nazis. But here's why it's far scarier than you think. And why, and you're not going to like this, the left, not for violence, but the left deserves part of the blame. And I'll get into that in a second. And also, as an aside, if you are a right-thinking American and you haven't seen Tina Fey's sheet caking a bit on Saturday Night Live news, Weekend Update.
I didn't watch it.
I fucking love Tina Fey. She's one of the most brilliant comedy writers ever. I think I've told you I'm watching 30 Rock again.
Oh, I've been watching it while I work.
And it's very rare as comedy funnier the more you watch it, but it's just so layered and so chock-a-block, and you miss stuff. And I would just watch her and Alec Baldwin all day long. But she came out and they went full throttle, SNL. They have some primetime thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And she came out and did a whole, because she's a graduate of the University of Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
And she came out and she did a thing on, she called sheet caking, which is just brilliant. But they pulled out the big guns. They had Jimmy Fallon, who I think is very annoying, but came out as George Washington, and then Seth Meyers as Thomas Jefferson.
I love Seth Meyers.
So do I. Seth Meyers and Samantha Bee, I feel, have had the strongest political satire. Samantha Bee is fucking brutally brilliant.
Yeah, she is.
You know, and she's got that sort of snarky, deadpan thing, but she's a brilliant writer. But her and Seth Meyers, like Seth Meyers, A Closer Look, which is, you know, the segment on the show is just constantly insightful and funny.
I think Jimmy Fallon tries too hard.
I think Jimmy Fallon is very much in love with Jimmy Fallon. So, but anyway, so here's something that happened at the Unite the Right rally. And okay, so the guy who organized Unite the Right, he saw this ruling of the statue and just used that as an excuse, because if you read his flyers, which really look like Nazi propaganda flyers, like, you know, come on out to the rally, we're gonna have pie and strudel and, you know, the Jews. There's nothing in there about the Robert E. Lee statue. There's fucking nothing. And, you know, there were some interesting groups at the rally. I don't know if you know specifically who was there on the right.
I didn't.
Okay, I dove deep because it's something I've been watching for a while.
Yeah.
And I promise I'll shut the fuck up in a second. But I got a lot to say.
No, it's fine.
So there were the usuals, the KKK, white nationalists, the you know, guys from the Daily Stormer and all that stuff.
Fuckers.
But then there was some interesting stuff, and the Three Percenters were there, and all of these groups, of course, is, you know, white is right, you know, the Jews, and they all have basic standards is the wrong word, but that's really, you know, you got to be white, you got to be, you know, all white and everything. But then there's some interesting things. They are putting aside their differences. You know, we know that Nazis hate homosexuals. All right. So in these KKK groups where, you know, there's closeted homosexuals.
Yeah.
But openly it's, you know, no gays, no African Americans allowed, no minorities, no Jews. But the Three Percenters, and I did so much, I read about so many groups. If I am getting this wrong, I'm not apologizing to the Three Percenters, of course. I am apologizing to people listening to this if I get this wrong. But I do believe the Three Percenters, which is a white supremacist movement, have been courting, for lack of a better term, white people in the LGBT community to increase their number. And there is nothing more insane than a racist log cabin Republican.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay, we need numbers. We need to swell our troops. So let's go after the white gay community. And then you have a guy who is a real sack of shit named Gavin McGinnis, who used to be on Vice News and then started his own thing. And swears up and down he is not a white supremacist. He is a Western civilization chauvinist.
Enthusiast?
Chauvinist. And believes Western civilization is the best civilization. Ain't no party like a white man party. Like a white man party don't stop. So he created a group called the Proud Boys, which is weird because to me, and I'm sorry, kind of a gay name. You know, I keep thinking of the Duran Duran song "Wild Boys."
I don't know. The only Duran Duran song I really ever recognize is, now I can't even think of the name of it.
Really?
It's like the main one that's always on the radio.
All right.
Nothing.
All right. So anyway,
really helpful.
But the Proud Boys technically will allow Latinos, even black people, gay people. They don't care because they say they're not white supremacists. Now the interesting thing is where they all seem to draw the line, from the Proud Boys to the Three Percenters, and then of course the more traditional inbred numbnuts.
Yeah.
No Jews. They all hate the Jews. Now, but understand that 15, 20 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, if you are a member of the KKK or the American Nazi Party or whatever they call it to sound more clever and less Nazi-ish, and you met a guy who was running a group who believed in everything you believe, but was fine with gays, Latinos, blacks, as long as they hated the Jews, you would not. They are impure. You would not associate with them. But what they did, what they are doing, and why it is much scarier than people think it is, and it's not going to end, is the KKK, the American Nazi Party, these other groups that are only white, no gays. Like, well, the Three Percenters, they agree with 99% of what we agree with. We don't like the gays, but let's work together.
Yeah.
the Proud Boys, which also has a sort of militant faction, which is like, totally don't agree with anything we say, but they hate the Jews.
Yeah.
But let's work with them. That's why it's far more terrifying than people think, because these are traditionally groups that would not really associate with each other and would try to vie for power, but they're putting aside their differences because the main message they all agree on is Muslims bad, blacks bad, America for white people, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's where it gets terrifying. And that's where the left shares the blame for that. And I'm going to tread on some sensitive subjects here. I am a dyed-in-the-wool liberal. I have been screaming and fighting and working towards the rights for people less advantaged than me since I was 15, 16 years old. And I think we've had this conversation off air a little bit. And I believe in 99.9% of what now would be considered the left, which I actually consider kind of an extreme left, is so because of my generation, I think it's mainly because of my generation. There are certain things I just don't believe in, you know, and it has more to do with, you know, using gender as a medical term when I mean sexual identity and things like that. And again, we're not going to get into that, but the basic fact is, I believe in 99.9% of what younger millennial social justice activists, I don't like the word social justice warrior, believe in. But I am told constantly, because I am an older, cisgendered white man, shut the fuck up. We don't want to hear it. We don't care. Your time has passed. It's over. Don't help. Okay? Of course I still help, because really, I don't care that you don't agree with me. But it's the shutting down of voices. Okay? And instead of saying, all right, you don't agree, but man, you're one of us, let's work together, like the right is doing, the extreme right, the terrifying right. Yeah. It's all the terrifying people on the right going, normally I would probably hit you with a billy club, but we're in a fight for our lives here, let's work together. Yeah. We're in a fight for our lives on the left. We really are. And it really all started, well, it started a while ago, but, you know, and again, the alt-right is not what it was, you know. The alt-right, and I know people don't like to hear this, the alt-right wasn't a racist thing when it first started. The alt-right was basically people that were like, look, I believe in small government, but I am a liberal in the sense of I believe in women's rights and gay rights and stuff like that, but I'm not a politically correct or third-wave feminist kind of guy. But unfortunately, the alt-right is now full-on neo-Nazi because they compromised it. You know, they took it over. Yeah. You know, and that's why when President shit the bed, when in that amazing press conference, you tell me what the alt-right is. Because he knows it's hard for people to define. But he also knows it's full of neo-fucking-Nazis. And it's a trap. He was trying to trap. So for the past 12 years, the left, and I think for the most part very positively, has been growing in power. And instead of wanting to listen to the opposite side, or listen to people within our own group and go, well, let's talk about this. Why do you feel this way? Maybe I can convince you that, you know what I mean? But they haven't done that. They've been shut up. And then when it comes to people on the right, no, we don't even want to hear. If you drive it underground, it doesn't go away. So the alt-right, which is now just neo-fucking-Nazis, let's just say what it is. The neo-Nazi community in America, which for such a long time was just a laughingstock. Like, we didn't care. They were driven so far underground because most of them work regular jobs or whatever, and also there are a lot of people who may have been alt-right that were converted to this extreme thing because the left thought they were winning by shutting down opposing voices and conversations, you know. But really all we've been doing is driving it underground. And when it's underground, it just festers. And now it's exploded. And there's these, you know, if you look at a KKK rally from, say, the Clinton administration or even the George W. Bush administration, they were still getting together and they looked ridiculous with like 40 or 50 guys.
Yeah.
Because it was a laughingstock. We didn't care. But the far left especially has been very good at making their voice heard while not wanting to engage in conversation with anyone that even disagrees with them slightly, and they think because they've been able to shut down the conversation ended. And all it did, and I'm not making excuses, you know, I know people that have gone full-blown Nazi and fuck those people. Seriously, I don't deal with those. You're a fucking weakling. If you're so butthurt that you decide now you're a racist, fuck you. You're a sack of shit. But when you push it underground, when you tell me, look, I'm very fortunate. I don't have a job that I have to worry about. You know what I mean? I have a voice. I know what I stand for. I know I stand for equality. So when a 24-year-old tells me I'm this or that, and they don't want to hear it, they just want me to shut up, you know? And your time is over. Be quiet. You're not allowed to ask questions. It's like, fuck you, you little shit. I'm gonna go talk, and because I'm on your side. You know, I'm not. You know, but when you push it underground, it just festers and bubbles. And what we saw in Charlottesville and what we will continue to see, unfortunately, is the pimples popped and the pus is running all over the place. And that's terrifying. And that's why the left has to change its tactic and start talking to people on the left and going, okay, look, I get it. You don't agree with a couple of things, and it's not even that you don't agree. You just see it differently. But on 99.9% of everything, you agree and you want to help.
Yeah.
You want to help. You know what? Bring potato salad to the next rally. You know, you're in. We get it. And so that's just what, you know, what really is scary, and it's not going to stop. And there are other rallies, and fucking President Dingus is going to Phoenix for another Nuremberg rally. Do you think he's going to be calm and understanding? So, and then I'm going to say a couple of things, and then I'll shut the fuck up, and I will listen to you, and I won't say anything till the end. So my problem with Black Lives Matter isn't the message. It's the same problem I had with the Wall Street movement, Occupy Wall Street. It's the lack of organization. And that's my problem. Like, Occupy Wall Street could have really done something. But they were like, no, you know, they had these movements and these movements, and we're all hippies, and Gilbert's making macrame baskets, and we love, and no centralized thing, and everyone had, no, you need a fucking leader, and you need a voice, and you need a goal. And Black Lives Matter isn't a group. Black Lives Matter is a label for a lot of different groups that just use the Black Lives Matter name. Some of those groups are not cool. Again, 99.9% of them just are looking for equality, but some people have done and said really stupid shit in the name of Black Lives Matter. So my problem with Black Lives Matter isn't Black Lives Matter. My problem with Black Lives Matter is someone needs to take control of that and have, you know what I mean? Because it's so, when you are unorganized like that, when you are just this amorphous blob of different groups that use it to their advantage whenever they want to, you open yourself up for people like President Trump to, you know what I mean? That's my problem with it. And Antifa, which I know is anti-fascist, like I said to you before, is basically anarchists. And I don't like fascism either, but Antifa is borderline anarchist. When you look at what they did at Berkeley, that's not helpful. And if we want to win a fight of morals, we have to take the moral high ground, which means as upsetting as it is, we have to follow the Martin Luther King Jr. playbook, which is unfortunately non-violence.
I mean, he talked about violent rallies also, though.
He did, but he never do it.
Yeah.
He talked about possibly if it can, and if it comes to that,
I mean,
okay. If it's a matter of life and death, look, if you see a neo-Nazi beating the shit out of a black guy, step in there and beat the shit out of the neo-Nazi, but don't be the first guy to throw a fucking rock. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I will shut the fuck up. I apologize for occupying all the time. I would like to hear your thoughts, what you think, and what you think we can do, and what this really, really means.
Well, that's a lot.
I know, we got time now.
First of all, the Duran Duran song was Hungry Like a Wolf.
Okay, thank you. That was going to drive you crazy.
Yes. So, I understand what you're saying about the getting pushed down and coming back up right now, and it's a reason, not an excuse, like you said also.
Yeah, not an excuse, absolutely.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But I do think that on the left, that is also what has happened for decades, right? Like, a lot of the people who are on the left, if you subscribe to that it's people who are marginalized and minority groups, LGBT groups, like, they also, their voices have been pushed down for all that time. And so what bothers me, and I'm not like saying that bothers me about you, but it bothers me about that is that, so for 12 years or whatever you say, 12 years, these people who are now neo-Nazis, they've been pushed down for only 12 years. And then they're the ones who are like blowing it out of proportion.
That's not what I'm saying.
Oh.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. And of course, the left, the marginalized have been marginalized. But since the 60s, they've been given a voice. And I'm not saying it's equal. No. What I'm saying is the left has come to power. Mm-hmm. The left, because, look, this country wasn't started by hippies. This country was started by people that were so religiously uptight and extreme. England went, go ahead, you go there. Yeah. So we are going to inevitably start to lean more left. Mm-hmm. We are going to be more liberal. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, as the left, and I don't mean politically, which it kind of has. I mean, we are. Yeah. If you look at the laws on the books, we are a far more liberal country than we used to be, mm-hmm. and that's because the left has been growing in power. Mm-hmm. No, what I'm saying is, excuse me, I'm a little wheezy. What I was saying was, the left really, the minute Barack Obama became president, the left was like, this is what we've been working for. Mm-hmm. Now is not the time for our voices to be heard. Now is the time for our voices to be the voice of power. And what do you do with that power? Well, the old liberal sort of mindset was, we take the high ground, we voice what we feel is right, we allow people with dissenting voices to speak, but we make sure they're marginalized in the sense of, we make sure their points look fucking stupid, through debate and conversation. If it's a flawed mindset, if it's a flawed theory, you can pick that apart, mm-hmm. right? But that's not what the left has been doing. What the left has been doing is, let's secure our power, not by debate, but by domination. Mm. And that's what, I'm not saying I have sympathy for the neo-Nazis being pushed underground. No. What I'm saying is, because it's not just been the neo-Nazis, any dissenting voice, mm-hmm. if you are not doing the double plus good Orwellian speak of the left, any dissenting voice is told to shut the fuck up. You are the enemy, shut up. And you're not solving the problem, you're pushing it underground. Mm-hmm. And if the left wants to be better, if we want to be the shining light of this is the future, a future of acceptance and tolerance and understanding, we have to be tolerant and understanding. I'm not saying be tolerant and understanding of fucking neo-Nazis, mm-hmm. but take the long, high road of hoping, it's again, what's that old saying? No one's born a racist. Mm-hmm. You're made a racist. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy to just tell those people to shut the fuck up. Yeah. But I don't want it driven underground. I never wanted it driven underground. I want to know what my fucking enemies are doing. Yeah. That's why, people used to boggle when I would tell them something I saw on Fox News. Well, why are you watching Fox News? They're the enemy. It's a propaganda machine. You need to know what your enemy is thinking.
Psychologically, it makes it, well, like, there's studies that show that the people who do read the dissenting opinions it makes their own opinion stronger because you're able to craft an argument.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Thinking, yeah, no.
So if you decide you don't want to engage with people of dissenting opinion, your argument stays the same. Mm-hmm. And that's all. And I apologize, but I just wanted to clear that up. I'm not saying boo-hoo for the KKK. And by the way, President Trump, if you say something that makes the head of the KKK say thank you, you've said something terrible. Unless you're the new head of the KKK.
Yeah.
In which case, congratulations, you dumb racist bastard. But that's all I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. No, I'm not boo-hoo, but where have they been? We really haven't heard about it until Donald Trump. And that's because they were in online forums and communities, and now they're coming out because they feel empowered. Because the left, whether it's through the mainstream media or MTV or really YouTube, which has been amazing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay, as a cisgendered white male, I will shut the fuck up and let you speak.
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, it's all terrible.
Right.
I don't know where it's going. I think you asked that last. Well, I really don't. Bannon being out is not a good thing, I don't think, actually, because he's just going he's already hired back at Breitbart.
Well,
everything that he's
did he ever really leave Breitbart?
No, but now, I mean.
Well, but here's the only hopeful thing with Bannon is if there is one person with as fragile an ego as President Poopy Pants, it's Steve Bannon. If General Kelly, who I feel so bad for, did you see General Kelly during that? Yeah. Trump broke a Marine. He broke a Marine. Yeah. Oh my God. So if General Kelly is able to rein in this bacchanal of a fucking administration and turns away from what Bannon wanted, if you don't think Bannon and Breitbart, he knows where all the bodies are buried. If you piss him off, he will bury Donald Trump. That's why President Trump sent out a tweet today thanking, and I think it's the first person he sent a tweet out to that he fired, which was thanking Bannon for his service, because he's the one person Trump's actually afraid of. Like, I don't think he's afraid of Sean Spicer, even though I would think Sean Spicer knows where some bodies are buried. Yeah. Bannon knows where all the bodies are buried. And you should read the tweet because it's like he was thanking him for competing on The Apprentice.
Well, he's firing a fucking person a week. He thinks he's living The Apprentice. Yeah. Like, it's insane.
But I think he's terrified of Bannon. Excuse me, and he fucking should be.
I mean, Bannon, to his credit, I will say, had some ideas that would maybe have been beneficial. But
I don't disagree with that, but he's such a terrible person.
He's a horrible person. Somebody on Twitter joked that he was quitting the administration to join the Gin Blossoms. Get it?
That's funny. Okay, that's very clever. No, look, there are certain things that we need to do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with economic nationalism the way the world is. Now, it's one thing to be for economic nationalism, but globalization is going to happen.
Yeah.
Globalization has to happen if we're going to survive.
Yes.
Wars need to stop if we're going to survive. Mm-hmm. The money we spend on armies and things like that, the money you spend on, the money individual countries spend on an army, is ridiculous. Now, if you have a one Earth government, you're spending money on an Earth, a Terran army, mm-hmm. and it's much more manageable mm-hmm. and feasible. For when the aliens come. But globalization is not going to happen overnight, and globalization is not going to happen until every country agrees this is what we need to do to survive. But the only way to do that is to, can we go 2 weeks without killing each other? I mean, on a war front, it's bringing Islamic extremists into the 21st century and de-extreming them. Mm-hmm. It's taking these third world countries and bringing them up to second world, taking these second world countries, bringing them up to first world. It's a long process. Mm-hmm. So while economic nationalism is fine, it's only fine if you are moving towards the understanding that globalization is going to happen, which is where Bannon is flawed.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, among others.
Yeah, but infrastructure, yeah, we need infrastructure.
Yeah.
Anyone who's driven across this country understands that our power grid, like, it's nothing since the 50s, man. So, yeah, that's a couple of things, but it doesn't outweigh the Muslim ban, which is not a ban, but a ban.
Yeah. You're saying it's a ban.
Yeah.
Like on
Yeah.
SNL.
Yeah.
You're saying those words.
Yeah.
It's your words.
Yeah.
It's a ban. And I'm just saying your words back to you.
He's insane. So I apologize.
So, yeah, I'm not sure that anything will happen by Wednesday. I really I think people we're just raising that bar lower and lower, so lowering that bar lower and lower of what's acceptable.
Are we raising the bar lower and lower or lowering the bar higher and higher?
Yeah, I don't know. You'll never know. But, yeah, I mean, so it was like Trump does all these horrible things, and his supporters are still like, you know what? I don't care. He's not a racist.
It's insane. It's insane when I look on Twitter.
Oh,
God elected Donald Trump. No, he didn't. First of all, God's not real. Second of all, you can believe it if you want. I personally don't, and if you do, wonderful. But if God elected Donald Trump, then who elected Barack Obama? The devil? I don't think so. You can't have it both fucking ways.
It's true, and I
excuse me.
Try to see both sides on like what would drive you to look for a king so hard, especially if somebody as terrible as him. But like, how weak must you be that you think that this person is godlike? I just don't understand that.
They don't think he's godlike. They think he's been anointed by God.
I mean, I feel like it's kind of similar. But like, it's just that he is their savior. They're like in that way. But I just
Which is terrifying because he doesn't believe at all.
No.
You know, and also, and I think we've talked about this before, maybe on another podcast.
Yeah.
Which is that the Christian right, the fundamentalist right, who don't understand Christianity at all, by the way.
No.
You really don't. I apologize. I'm more than happy to talk to a fundamentalist on camera in a very civil debate and explain to you why you don't get the message of Jesus.
Yeah.
But
it could be the hating certain groups of people thing.
Right.
Number one.
But yeah. Well, and again, there's this thing where anyway, but you know, Donald Trump was the most un-Christian candidate in a very long time. And you'll always hear people go, well, Hillary. Well, Hillary, compared to Donald Trump, was an incredibly Christian candidate. Donald Trump has borne false witness. He is an adulterer.
Oh my
he
God.
has coveted. He has broken almost every single commandment, which, by the way, has nothing to do with Christianity. It's political. I'll talk to you later. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, look, she's born false witness. She's a politician.
Right.
But let's look at this from a modern day Christian fundamentalist standpoint. Bill Clinton is accused of philandering and cheating and even sexual assault. What did Hillary Clinton do? Did she go, fuck you, Bill, I'm out of here, and whatever? She stood by her man like a good Christian wife and believed him. And people can say, well, she did it for the power or whatever. We don't know that.
Right.
And if you take what Donald Trump says at face value, which is that he loves Jesus, and
he sits there bored as fuck in church, like going, looking around.
Yeah, he's like me at church. Like,
yeah.
is there going to be brownies after the service?
Yeah, out like that. What the fuck, man?
But if you take Donald Trump at his word, when he's a known liar, he bears false witness like a frickin' son of a gun. Hillary Clinton, you know, you can't be a hypocrite. You either take everybody at their word or you take no one at their word, and you look into it, which is the smart thing to do.
Right.
But Hillary Clinton was by far, her foundation gave more to charity. She herself gave more to charity.
Is there any evidence?
She has been married to the same man, raised a child as a grandmother, and again, stood by her man.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, is there any evidence that his charity ever gave anything to anyone? I can't remember if they've ever found it.
Oh yeah, like to himself.
Oh, fucking.
It's such a con, and they would talk about corrupt Hillary. He just wasn't able to play on this level. He's way more corrupt than him.
It
than the
really,
Clinton family.
I mean, we could rehab. That's like preaching to the choir. It just blows my mind how quickly we flipped from digging into, like, they couldn't even handle Mitt Romney because he was Mormon. Even the right, a lot of them didn't like him because he was Mormon.
Yeah.
Gone from that to being 100% okay with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
But I think it's desperation.
It is.
But I also think it's the dog whistling.
Yeah.
You know, look, and I will say this, Steve Bannon had a point in terms of economic nationalism, which is, and even Donald Trump said it, but he said it because he was parroting Steve Bannon, because Donald Trump is like a smart person, which is not the same as a smart person, and he leaves all the bigly thoughts to Steve Bannon. So, I'm sorry, that's never going to get old. So, when he talks about how if you give a man or a woman a good job, they'll be too busy making money and going to work and feeling that self-worth to be racist, which is not true.
Mm-hmm, no.
But you certainly don't have enough time to pack up the van and go down to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll be too, it's like, oh dude, we're doing an anti-Jew rally. I gotta work, man. We need you. Overtime, I'm getting time, you know what I mean? So but it doesn't solve the problem, but it helps. But the problem is, so you have these people, you know, that's why he won the Rust Belt. He lied to them and said, your jobs are coming. They're not coming back. We're still in Barack Obama's economy, by the way. We are. We're still in Barack Obama's economy. And if Trump was a smart businessman, he'd know that, which I think he does. I think he knows that at least, but he just lies. So
Pence is on the board of that lion train too, for someone who's such a good Christian.
Yeah, but again, Christians don't understand their religion.
Mm-hmm.
They really don't. And Pence is a whole other thing. Like, Pence is actually one step away from magic underwear.
Yeah.
Which, I don't, look, if you want to wear magic underwear, that's fine.
Yeah.
I actually have a pair of Lucky Boxers.
Yeah.
I don't. But you know, yeah, I mean, and it's a weird place we live in where I think there are a lot of Republicans who wish Mitt Romney had won. Where George W. Bush looks like a good president.
His statement was so, what is it, diplomatic?
Yeah.
Where it was like, oh, we don't like racism, me and my dad. But then, like, you couldn't call out the president.
I will say this. In George W. Bush's defense, he spent 8 years not criticizing Barack Obama. Like, he said when he left, he said, it is unfair of me to comment. And I do respect that. Again, not a good president, but I think a decent man.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I agree.
And actually, there's an interview he did on Jimmy Kimmel. He had a book come out last year where he painted all these paintings and all the money goes to veterans. That man's fucking adorable.
Yeah, he's the post-president.
Post-President Bush is frickin' adorable.
Yeah.
And I even think, look, President Bush, again, there are certain reasons you should never run for president, and to make Daddy proud is certainly a big one. And the only one worse than that is to fill the hollow thing inside you that you think is your soul, which is why Donald Trump ran. Although I actually do, I should say, I still think he didn't want to win.
No,
I think he ran to up his
brand
and his renegotiate his apprentice contract.
His failing brand. Yeah. What I was going to say earlier, going back to the hating of Jews.
Sure, that never gets old.
Yeah, well, it's funny to me. So I'm from a small town in Michigan, a farm community, and they've recently had an issue. My friend's company had swastikas, like, painted on their dumpsters because they're, like, a construction company in Sparta, fucking Michigan.
Okay.
So, and it's like rural, and there's a lot of racists there. My whole life grew up hearing racist stuff, even though all of them will say they're not racist, because that's the thing, they don't understand the problematic stuff. But again, we're all adults, so it's an excuse, it's a reason, it's not an excuse for their behavior. That we're all adults and have the internet now, we can research why things that we say are bad. But it blows my mind because there's a temple in Grand Rapids.
A Jewish
temple. I had never met a Jewish person until I went to the University of Michigan, because there's a lot there. Again, I mean, either way, I didn't care. But I don't understand how all these people, probably, not all of them, but a lot of them probably have not ever interacted with a Jewish person before.
No, of course not.
And that also blows my mind. Like, how do you hate someone so much that you've never even met? I still don't think any kind of racism or prejudice is a good thing, but, like, I can understand more, like, the people in my town who maybe are really racist against Mexicans, because we have a lot of farmland, there's migrant workers who come out. I don't understand it. I shouldn't say that, but like, you interact with them, you based your opinion on this, even though it's wrong and you're still an asshole. But, like, how have you've never met a Jewish person before, or, like, so what is it about?
You are raised, like, you are raised with lies.
It's just
at
insane.
a young age. I can give you 2 examples. So I went to Loyola Marymount for a year before I was kicked out. But my roommate came from a very rural part of I think it was Louisiana, which is outside of New Orleans, and Baton Rouge is pretty rural.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And he had never met a Jew before, and he was shocked. And I don't blame him. I mean, you know, he hadn't met a Jew before, and he's meeting a Jew at a Jesuit university. So there was there was a good communications department. And so we're sitting there talking, and he keeps looking at me, not in a mean way, in this curious way. And I finally asked him, I said, dude, buddy, what's going on? And he said, with a straight face and with all sincerity, I'm looking for your horns. Because he was raised to believe that Jews were spawns of the devil. Because I think it was in like a sect of Christianity that was like one step left of snake handlers. So he was raised to believe that. And some Christian sects are, especially in the small rural towns. Jews are the spawn of the devil.
Yeah.
They mix blood, baby's blood, because it's the protocols of the elders of Zion, which is a proven hoax. We can get into that on another thing. So he thought I had horns, because Jews are born with horns. So I told him, I said, listen, man.
They retract when we get to be 18.
No. I said, when you turn 13 and you have your bar mitzvah, you go to the doctor, and they're sawed off. And then we have a special salve that stops them from growing, and you have to put it on for 5 years, and by the time you're 18, it's fine. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And I said, but don't you believe we have cloven feet too? And he's like, nobody believes that, man. So even in his mind, he was like, well, if you had cloven hooves, you couldn't wear shoes like that. Like, so he was willing to believe on this, but here's what I did. Because he said, oh, well, that makes sense. You know. I don't know why he sounds like George W. Bush.
Yeah, like Louisiana accent's hard to pull off, man.
Whoo, man, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just Cajun now. So no horn? No horn. Whoo, that's crazy. Which he didn't sound like that at all. Yeah. And he's like, well, what do you do with them? Like, I got them in a jar at home. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah, I'll bring them for you. Really? I'm like, yeah. So what I did was, I went to a head shop, and I bought a couple of antler pipes, and I shaved them down and sawed them off. And then I put them in a jar of like paint thinner or formaldehyde or something, left them in the sun for like 3 weeks in my mom's house. And they just got all bleached and old and whatever. Yeah. And then I brought them to him.
Oh my God.
And he was like, man.
What a fucking moron.
And I'm like, you want them? He's like, can I have them? I'm like, yeah, go ahead. But it was funny because it was near the end of the first semester where he realized what he had been told growing up was bullshit. He came to me and went, why'd you do that to me? I'm like, come on. You thought I was born with horns. How am I not supposed to fuck with you? And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry about that, man. I'm like, no, it didn't upset me. It was, you have to understand, it was funny to me.
I've never heard that. It's crazy.
Well, no, but...
Yeah, no, I know, but it's crazy growing up. So, growing up in that small town, but luckily my parents were incredibly open, and I didn't know until I dated someone, like, in my mid-20s who thought racist jokes were funny, sometimes even though he's totally a liberal. I didn't know a lot of, like, stereotypes about race, and, like, I'm not perfect. I've said a lot of problematic things and learned, and, like, lots and lots of problematic things that I've had to correct my behavior for. However, but I was like, it's crazy to me, like, learning that, like, and I guess that's a privilege of my, like, being in a good community and being around people who are smart and don't have that, is that I never experienced anything really terrible or having terrible things said besides, like, the woman thing. But,
right.
I learned that a lot of people think that black people go to college for free. Like, that's another, like, thing that they're told that.
Yeah.
Their whole life that black people all go to college for free. And that's
crazy.
still, like, a still held belief for college students today, which is
It's insane. Now, I will say this, and this is generational, and also because I'm a guy.
Yeah.
Racist jokes actually can be kind of funny.
Well, okay. But,
I'm just
you know,
but it's propaganda. I mean, what we're really talking about is anti-Semitism. These silly things like all the, even the death panel thing when it comes to healthcare. Every black person in America got a free cell phone from Barack Obama, which is insane, by the way. But it's propaganda. And here's my last example of, this is an example of me being influenced by propaganda.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the Cold War in the 80s. And this is of course, a very guy thing. Mm-hmm. So, again, it might be problematic. But when we were growing up in the Cold War, the big joke was Eastern European women.
Uh-huh.
All Eastern European women were roided out on steroids, looked like the babushka, like they all look like there was no such thing as a beautiful Russian woman. Mm-hmm. There was always this running gag of the East German women's wrestling team, and they were all men wearing wigs and stuff like that. And then perestroika happens in Glasnost, and the wall comes down, and we see for the first time that everyone in Russia is a supermodel.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? The men tend to be ugly as fuck, but the women, for whatever reason, in the Eastern Bloc countries, all look like bikini. I'm not saying, and I shouldn't say that because that's a stereotype. They all, but, and I remember going, huh? What?
Yeah.
But I was convinced, and I was convinced that communists were evil. Mm-hmm. And they're really not. Again, it's propaganda.
Yeah.
And when that happens, and all of a sudden you're told one day that okay, communists aren't bad, we're helping them, and hey, look, everybody in Minsk looks like they should be on the cover of a Tommy Hilfiger ad or whatever. It's so these things are propaganda, and it's unfortunate. But that's why you need to talk.
Yeah, it's kind of
and lead people to the light.
It's been interesting, like as I get older and like being around more people and like hearing more like about the historical context behind a lot of stuff. Like I see how like not blind might be the right word. I don't know how like I didn't even like know like certain phrases even like where that comes from, the propaganda, and like knowing all those stereotypes, and then it's like I guess it's like I'm lucky that I'm just seeing this now in a lot of ways, like because people have they've been yelling from the rooftops forever, like this is what we experience, and so it's having to recognize that is something that's good. Right,
but it's also not feeling guilty about not knowing it sooner.
No,
you came from a really white, rural, tiny town.
Yeah.
You're doing pretty good.
No, I know.
And there's a lot of people who come from your same situation and whose head just explodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also about you've been educated.
Yeah.
When I say educated, I don't mean woke. I mean, you went to college.
Yeah, it's true. And I traveled. A lot of people in my town, there are a lot of great people, so if anybody ever listens to this, I'm not trying to shit on you. But
that's my job.
Yeah, exactly. So
the liberal Jew.
But a lot of them don't want to travel outside of the States. They really have no desire to see anything beyond what they live in.
And that's sad. And if you're listening to this, the only thing more sad than an empty passport, a blank passport, is an American without a passport. Mm-hmm. The world is a wonderful, wonderful, exciting place. Now, America is a beautiful country. There's amazing things to see, but get outside the country. I've been so fortunate to travel the world, and it opens your mind, and I've lived overseas, and it's important for Americans to see. You don't have to go to China on your first trip. Dip your toe in the water. Go to England. It's almost like America.
And it won't break the bank. A lot of people say they can't afford it. Like
you
can.
You
can.
You
just if you're traveling to Florida every single year, start taking that money and setting it aside. Like.
Well, but there's again, you don't have. You can stay if you're young. You can stay. I stayed in youth hostels.
You can stay in hostels when you're even in your 30s. Like,
I agree with that.
But you could if you were like, I want that experience. You totally can.
You totally can. But if you are in your 30s. And money is not an issue, stay in a hotel.
or a nice Airbnb. We stayed
I don't like Airbnb.
Oh, we stayed
I don't
in a
like
giant apartment in Prague. It was amazing.
It's like why I don't stay at relatives' place. Like I can, we're big breeders, so I can go all over the world basically and have someone to crash with. And I just don't like staying in somebody else's house.
Even when they're not there?
Yeah, it's just weird to me. It's weird to me. I don't know why. It just makes me, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't. No. We have this cabin outside of Solvang. It's a family cabin. And I love it because it's chill as fuck. But I still feel weird there.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know what? I don't know.
I don't
it's
like
a weird
sleeping over at people's houses if I haven't planned for it.
Yeah.
Like, but if I plan for it, I'm fine with it.
It's weird to me, man.
Yeah.
No, I don't like it. Anyway, so we digress. Now, we've been talking for about an hour.
All right, well, we'll wrap that shit
So we've solved the race problem in America. Well done. Well done, Angie. So look, my fear is this, it's not going to end well.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a strong leader, and we don't have that.
No.
And we also have a racist leader. And real quick, here's how we know he's racist.
Hitler booked by his bed, allegedly.
No, that's not true. I mean, no.
Well, Ivana did.
Well, first
put it
of
in
all,
a court document.
yeah,
but it's alleged.
First of all, we know he doesn't read.
That's a great point.
Maybe a Mein Kampf coloring book.
Yeah.
Paint Hitler by numbers. But no, he doesn't read. And maybe he had it there to look cool and edgy. But we know he's a racist because, and it's funny, his Twitter followers are a lot of bots that follow him.
A lot of bots.
They talk about these 4 instances where he came out against David Duke in like the 90s. But he didn't come out against him in the most important time when he was running. Mm-hmm. So if he's not a racist, he's duplicitous. He would, but he did not do the birther thing to keep himself in the spotlight, because you only do that for about a week. He did that for years, and that's because he's a fucking racist who couldn't believe there was a black man in the what? No, you're a fucking racist, and I've had people tell me, well, he can't be a racist. I mean, his daughter's Jewish, and look at the trust he's put in his son-in-law. And I said, well, first of all, I didn't say he was smart.
Yeah.
I said he was racist. And Kushner's, here's the scary thing about Jews. They look white.
So that's all he cares about.
So that's all he cares about. And I, it's so funny, I do tell some of my Jewish friends sometimes that, you just think you're white. You're not, you're Jewish. Mm-hmm. And you'll know you're Jewish and not white when you get around racists.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But we know he's a fucking racist. Mm-hmm. And if the leader of your country is a fascist and a racist, and quite possibly really mentally unstable aside from that.
Well, a lot of people do think that he has dementia, and as someone whose mom had dementia for the last 5 years until she passed, I can totally 100% see it.
I don't disagree at all. And I know some people have said he's got syphilis. But
that would be really funny.
That would be so funny.
Actually.
But anyway, so listen, everybody. To my friends on the right, don't walk down the street with Nazis.
Yeah.
If you go to protest something and people are saying "Hail Victory," the Jews will not replace us, carrying Nazi flags, wearing polos with Nazi symbols on them, carrying torches.
Tiki torches.
There
wasn't a mosquito for miles.
Nope. And the best Mai Tais at any racist rally ever. But if you are a non-racist person on the right who voted for Trump, and I do know those people.
Yeah.
I really do. If you are someone who voted for Barack Obama but voted for Donald Trump, which I know those people as well, because of the economic situation, the jobs, especially in the Rust Belt and things like that. Now is the time to walk away from the right.
And I will say there are despite what it seems like, there are a lot of people on the left who are like welcoming. There are groups who are like, yes, it's fine. We understand that you thought that this was the right choice, but now's the time that you gotta.
But they are the less vocal. The voice on the left is still militant. You cannot be the party of tolerance by being intolerant. And it's the real power on the left that needs to be accepting, not of the right because they like that victory of taking someone from the right and going, look what we did, but the people on the left being more inclusive of the other people on the left. It's a spectrum. To my friends on the left, especially the far left, stop trying to shut down conversation. We need to be able to speak openly. If I agree, and I know a lot of people who do, if I agree with 99% of what you believe in, don't make me the enemy. Make me the ally. Because on the right, groups who disagree with other groups are uniting. And that should terrify everybody. Because these are groups who would fight amongst themselves and never work together. But they're working together. And that's partially because they feel empowered by an idiot in the White House who is a racist. And he's weak-minded. He is a weak-minded man. 100%. So, it's terrible what happened in Charlottesville. It's terrible that the president, his first instinct wasn't to talk about mourning the loss of that woman who, from what I understand, was a social worker and gave her life to helping people. The two policemen who lost their lives. But here, and I will say this, it's a fringe element that shouted it, but I mentioned earlier, Tina Fey did the sheet caking thing, which was brilliant. And it wasn't enough for some people on the left because she didn't use the right words, and she didn't. So on, there was a Twitter shit show sort of condemning Tina Fey for not doing the right thing. She's on your side. She has a high profile, and she's on your side. And you want to be pedantic and say you didn't use the double plus good Orwellian speak? Shut the well, I'm not telling you to shut the fuck up since I'm asking people to be more inclusive. But that's the problem. We want to win. It's our message. No, it's our message. And here's what the message is, and this is the only thing the message should be. Minorities and the marginalized have absolutely the same right as white people and should be able to live without fear. The LGBTQ community, they are American too. They deserve love and to be loved. And if they want to get, look, marriage is not necessarily for me. If you want to get fucking married, go ahead. I think it's great for the economy, both for the wedding and the eventual divorce. Muslims are Americans. This country was founded on religious freedom. Everybody, as long as you are not hurting anyone else, you want to worship Santeria, that's fine with me. But Muslims are not evil. There is a very small section of Muslims that are evil, but we need to be able to address that and talk about the problem with extremist Islam, which is the same problem we have with extremist Christianity, except there's less, there's less killing on extremist Christianity. So it should be a message of inclusion, and you can't have that unified message when someone like Tina Fey, who is on your side, comes out with this brilliant thing, just eviscerating the administration and neo-Nazis, and you don't like that she used certain words or whatever, and you're on the left and you try and shut her down. That's idiotic.
I didn't watch it, so I don't know. I do know that somebody what I saw a tweet that somebody didn't like, that she said to ignore the neo-Nazis, and I think that's what I saw nitpicking, where they were like, unfortunately, a lot of us don't have the option of ignoring them. We need to show up. But I didn't watch it, so
she didn't say ignore them.
Oh, okay.
And it was a joke.
Yeah, no, I know. I just...
The line was, if you see a rally of neo-Nazis. Treat it like a movie with 2 strong female leads. Don't go.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah.
Funny. And again, if I'm mixing satire and comedy with my message, maybe don't be fucking instantly goddamn butthurt.
Yeah.
She wasn't standing at a podium. She wasn't giving a fucking TED Talk.
Yeah.
It wasn't a press conference. She was shoving cake in her mouth during a fake news segment on a comedy show.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
You know.
We gotta wrap this.
Oh yeah, no, we do. It's over an hour.
Yeah.
But I think it's an important conversation
Yeah.
to have, and you know, unite the left. You know, unite the left. We have less flags, but better food.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Better music.
Sure.
I don't know.
More
Something.
diversity.
More diversity.
And also, in the end, your Confederate arguments are lazy, so get
Well-
new ones right side.
And also, let's end it with this. Donald Trump hates losers. I hate losers. I like soldiers who aren't captured. The South lost.
Exactly. That's
They're-
why I don't get that.
They're losers. Why don't you hate them, Mr. President? You hate losers.
And he's also destroying national parks, and he wants to destroy national parks because they're beautiful. But the Confederate statues are the beautiful ones.
Because you know why? He's a fucking racist weakling. At best, he's a duplicitous little shit. At worst, he's a racist, weak, feeble-minded.
He is.
You know, it's insane. And you know they have to give him everything in bullet points, like it's a 3-word thing.
Because
But
he's so fucking dumb.
actually, what the real reason is, and what they really don't talk about is, you know, Barack Obama, they would have these stats.
Yeah.
But Barack Obama had man hands. But President Trump has these tiny little hands because he has a very small
They
penis,
do it on a.
and he can't
Yeah.
grasp them.
It's true.
And that's why, yes, you have a very small penis, Mr. President, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Someday we'll see the video from that show.
Yeah, I just never want to see the sex tape you made of you and your daughter.
Oh my
Or more correctly, that Vladimir Putin made of you and your daughter.
Oh God.
Again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The only thing President Trump and I have in common, I want to bang his daughter too.
That's all on you.
I know. It's just my way of saying, you're sick.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, everybody, listen. So this has been an extra long, super special, perilous podcast, and there is a conspiracy. There's a conspiracy on the right. They're getting together. They're organizing, and if we want to win, and when I say win, I mean not live in a Nazi state where people are afraid of walking down the street.
Yeah.
The left really needs to come together, more so than ever. So you're listening to Cool Cats by Kevin MacLeod. Get all your royalty-free music at incompetech.com. I have been your host, excuse me again. Very wheezy this morning. I've been your host, Jonathan Lant. Go to my website, jonathanlant.com. And joining me is Angie Carrier. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Next week we're back to the shenanigan. I think next week it's Philadelphia Experiment.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be good. Angie and I are really open-minded on that one.
Yeah, so open-minded.
All right. Thanks for coming by, Angie.